Thank you. So it's fun coming up here. I appreciate it. This is still cool. Such a great organization you guys got up here. And you know, seeing all the names come by, you know, Brad Jess, he's excuse me, he's one of our training speakers, and seeing a bunch of the keynotes you guys got for State of Search. They're out of Vegas too at PubCon. So you guys have really built a great organization here. And I'm always honored to come out and talk to you guys at these meetings. So tonight, we kind of sold it a bit as future stuff. I'm actually going to talk a bit more about trends, where we've been, where we're going. I spent a great deal of time studying where the industry is going and what we're going to be doing 6 months from now, because that's what people want to learn about now for the conference. So we do a great deal of looking at what's the next big thing. So tonight, yeah, the clicker works. We have clicker. No clicker. I swear I've used one before. Been there. So, I'm going to talk a bit about design trends. There's been a slow evolution in design over the last few years. We know the big push towards mobile. We're going to turn the corner again pretty soon. There we go. Cool. There we go. And then I'm going to talk some optimization trends, not specifically SEO. I'm going to leave the SEO for Joe. He's the practitioner, non-stop SEO, so we'll leave that for him. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about VR that we talked about last year. So, and I promise not to talk about the Mavericks. So, you know, that's where I left last year, was the Mavericks, and look what happened. So we're going to take them off the deck this year. So, current trends, you know, our hardware status is pretty much matured. There's no brand new hardware out there other than possibly VR, but the phones are fairly mature, both Samsung and iPhone. Last year, the actual average phone life went up 1 month if you take out the iPhone 5. And most of the iPhone 5, you can upgrade to the larger screen size, the new phablet size. So phones are actually lasting a little longer than they did just a year ago. That was from Love to Recycle. They do a survey every 6 months. It's really fascinating to read. It's a paid quarterly newsletter. So let's look at some design trends. I think it's kind of fascinating to see what's going on in the design field. We've been so saturated in mobile again in the last 6 months that I wanted to look outside of that and see what else was coming about. If you tuned into the design trends at all, there's a large segment of designers, HTML, graphics designers, that are just enamored with this Google material design framework that they put out here 6 months ago. They really started to push it. It's basically a system for handling HTML, graphics. It generally breaks down into about user experience, and Google has been pushing user experience more and more, both in the algo and both in all their talks. So that's a huge adoption coming. Another big trend, we've been losing the sidebar. The new media groups, Mike, Quartz from Reuters, AP. The sidebar is going away, generally because it's responsive, makes great use for tablets, whatever, phone. It transitions well. Things like Box are losing the sidebars. Even though they got a top-end menu there, it goes away on tablets and phones. So clearly responsive has kind of ruled the day, mainly because of mobile getting. Yeah, it was a picture of yesterday's news. Transparent buttons. Everywhere, transparent buttons from start to finish. The new Mission Impossible site. And I put that out there because if you look at some of the movie sites, they generally push web design. I'm going to talk a bit more about that. The movie sites have been fascinating to push web design trends the last few years. Other design trends, bigger text, bigger images. There's a lot of images coming down that are 4K. I got one on The Verge last week that was 4 megabytes on a large screen box. They were downsizing for tablets and phones, but it was 4 meg on a desktop. I mentioned the media sites a couple of times. They're getting a ton of money, they're getting a ton of traffic, and they're going to end up getting bought by somebody big. Vox, Medium, Verge, Vice, Mike. These sites are really up and coming, and they're pushing the design envelope. Parallax scrolling, we've watched that for the last few years. We thought it was dying. But then Google came out and put parallax scrolling in a bunch of the App Store apps. A few other people picked up on it. Again, the media sites like The Verge has a huge background parallax scrolling. If you want to see a really cool example of it, go to laser.nyc. Flat. Windows 8 brought about the tablet flatness, dropped all pretense of cut corners, drop shadows, gone. Windows 10 finished that. If you've used Windows 10, it might be coming from Windows 7 or even XP. It's kind of shocking, the new design being all flat. In several of the windows, you'll actually lose the top corners of the backgrounds. They'll fade into the background entirely. I personally didn't like it. I don't care for it. In fact, I went back to Windows 7 because once you see something bad with a system, like a design motif, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You always think it. The other huge design trend is I call it the hacker culture design. Throws back a little bit to the Matrix. The Matrix was all green screen backgrounds. It's growing because there's a huge segment of Greg here. I don't think Greg here is here. Greg here? Okay. In the car sector, there's a lot of sites coming out with dark backgrounds, huge graphics on photo sites are going to black backgrounds. Anything to do with really high quality images are starting to use backgrounds that were black. That used to be a complete no-no. And I think it's in part due to the hacker and a little bit of the Matrix culture. Anybody here watch Mr. Robot? Great show. It's on tonight. Ton of graphics in it. Minecraft, the pixelation segment that's going on. Anything to do with kids is pixelated. Anything to do with kids' clothing is pixelated. Anything where moms are going to look is going to be pixelated. It's grown by leaps and bounds because Minecraft, is just taking over. It's taking over our schools. I fully expect there to be a debate in the next debate about Minecraft. It's just so huge with all these kids. And it's going mainstream. It's going into a lot of stores, a lot of e-commerce sites. It's out there. Here's an example of all this put together. Big text, parallax scrolling, massive text, ghost buttons, and the entire thing is responsive. And that's a 4K picture of a shoe. That was an Overstock.com example. Things that are dying, anything not touch-friendly, 3D buttons are dying. Anything CSS mouse overs are slowly dying because they're not touch-friendly. Anything that doesn't act the same on the desktop that acts on mobile is dying. Agent sniffing is slowly going away. As you know, this week we have a new CEO of the Google search engine. Where did he come from? He came from Android. I think mobile-getting is just the beginning. We're going to see much bigger push from Google on mobile. 48% of the users say that if a site doesn't work well with their phone, if your company doesn't care about them or their business. That's from a Google survey. It's not just it doesn't work. No, they'll use my tablet or use my desktop. They don't care. Now, this is kind of my prediction. This is where I see things going. I was privy to look at the Iron Man 3 website before it went live. This was a beta. The entire website was a graphic. No HTML, nothing. It was one graphic with a little bit of Ajax that detected your screen size and put up the entire page as a graphic. They had five pages built this way, and they made it responsive depending on the screen size, whether you're using tablet, desktop, whatever. But the entire site was one graphic. They'd completely done away with HTML. They'd done away completely with generating anything. They just threw out a graphic right at you. And then mouse overs, a little bit of Ajax detected it. I don't even remember whether it was bitmap or whether it was screen grabbing. But I truly believe we're headed in that area. When you look at some of this stuff right now, whether it's jQuery or Mood Tools, some of this stuff can get out 4, 5, 6 meg. There's plugins that are kicking out 100K. Just a minor little JavaScript and then asking you to buy this other stuff.
SVG files?
Interesting. I think this is more because you can downsize a JPEG so much more than you can an SVG file. And I put up the picture there from, I forget where that's from, of the woman Sexual content is going mainstream in a huge way. It didn't dawn on me until the other night. My 8-year-old daughter walked up to me while I was reading the news site, and I had to slap the laptop down. Because it was pretty risque. And she walks away, and my wife goes, "What were you looking at?" Huffington Post, right? Huffington Post. As I mentioned, Google, now run by the head of Android. So where's that going to go? I don't know. He's been working in Android for 5 years. He's been reading all the studies, all the surveys, all the research, all their testing labs. He knows everything there is to know about phones and how people use them. That can only end up back in the search engine. That can only end up back in the search engine. And who's he going to bring in to be his right hand? All the guys he do with Android. So basically, all the guys in Android are now in charge of the SE. That was from our own Bill Hartzer. You work at Google, you're called a Googler, but what if you work at Alphabet? Are you an alphabetizer? I threw up there a picture of Groot, because if all you can say is, "I am Groot," you can pretty much do anything. If you're angry, I am Groot, whatever. You can go do anything. This was from Greg Gifford. He didn't show up. So optimization lifestyle. I look at us in SEO as kind of the groundbreakers. We're the wagons go west crew. We can do email, we can do affiliate programs, we can do paid search, we can do SEO search. Because once you have the mindset of optimization, you know the process. You know how to go in, where to find the analytics, where to find the metrics, where to find the process for who to talk to. I've started on this huge optimization ecosystem starting with SEO. And by the time I was done, everything kept coming back to SEO. I tried to connect all the dots and everything, and it looked like this great blur with SEO in the middle of it. I think we're moving into an era where SEO is the cornerstone for everything. This is from Mammoth Business Intelligence, this chart. This whole concept of things, whether you use a device, whatever channel, whatever method you're going to market, whether it be paid, free, earned. Omni-channel is kind of a buzz phrase. It's slowly coming up more and more and more. I think you're going to hear more of it, and I love it. Omni-channel marketing. It doesn't matter where your customer is. You want to be there. You want to be there when they're hitting the buy button. You want to be there when they're hitting the info button, whether it's on their phone or on their desktop. It doesn't matter. Or if they're going to their mailbox to get a flyer, you want to be there too. Unfortunately, with omni-channel marketing, when you're trying to market everywhere, the best you can, highly optimize, fragmentation occurs, whether that be in skill sets or in data sets. None of this stuff talks to each other. You want to send somebody out to be a social media program to optimize a social media campaign. It's not necessarily the same skill set it's going to take to be good at ad. So fragmentation occurs once we're in omni-channel. It was 2008 when a crash happened. And in 2007, 6, and 5, we used to have these in-house panels where we bring people from corporates to talk about in-house SEO and in-house optimization. And these panels just poorly attended. About 10, 15, 20 people there. Go up with the speakers, and I always say, "You sure you want to do this panel?" And the next, "Oh yeah, we can get 1 or 2 contacts out of it, it's worth it." So we go ahead and we have these panels 3 to 4 years from now. Well, in 2008, I stuck this panel down in one of the smallest rooms there was, about this size. Panel starts, and I walk in the room, and it's packed. This was just after the crash in late September. And it was packed. And I couldn't figure out, why is this packed? I started asking people, why is this room full of people? They literally were in the aisles and hanging out the door. And come to find out, when the crash happened, all those corporations canceled their agency budgets, canceled their travel budgets, and they went down to Bob or Sally, the junior marketing manager, and said, "Okay, you're now the new lead SEO. So go on out to PubCon and learn about it." Well, that continued in 2009. We had a huge amount of people coming in-house. We had a whole track on in-house. 2011, we had a whole track. We featured it on our training, pre-conference training workshop. 2012 pretty much peaked. 2013 it was down a little bit, and last year it was down considerably. And what we've kind of figured out is that many of these corporations are now going back to agencies again, going back to this lines of expertise because there's just not enough people that they can throw at it because fragmentation has happened within their own companies, within their own teams. So now back to omnichannel again. Generally, this was from Telecom 2.0. They also do a survey every couple of months, I believe, two to four, on how people start on a smartphone, get on a desktop, start on a laptop. The interesting thing I take away from this particular data set is that people do start on phones, but they never go to tablets. They always end up on the desktop. They skip the tablet. And if they're on a tablet, they don't go immediately to a PC later on. Omnichannel, again, we want to be there when the customer is ready necessarily to buy. Okay, let's talk a few search trends. Probably the biggest trend I've seen since links, which links came about with Google in 99, 2000. Content marketing. We had an overwhelming amount of speakers wanting to talk about content marketing. It was almost in every other presentation this year when I talk about content marketing. It's really an interesting switch to go from SEO to content marketing. Links, we had less than a dozen people want to talk about links this year. It was almost sad. Do we need to have something, a moment of silence for links? So content marketing, universal search, obviously the trend continues with Google basically using everybody's content to answer questions. Their slice of the pie continues, whether it be for weather or flights, dogs, we've all seen it. They're clearly keeping more and more of the traffic. So, although omnichannel thinks of marketing as holistic, no matter the channel, no matter whether it's paid or earned or given, doesn't mean it's spray and pray. The one thing that omnichannel definitely has going for it, modern, is metrics, analytics. We talked a little bit about social media. Social media is so cool because it's about trust. You get recommendations from friends on social media. Word of mouth marketing is still a major player. So spray and pray, if you're not familiar with spray and pray, it means just you throw money here, you throw money there, and you hope it works. You have to buy some ads, buy some flyers. Visuals. Pinterest is very interesting still. I think Pinterest's heyday is still yet to come. I just read a nice case study by a good friend, Ray Hoffman. You haven't run into Ray before, look her up. She's got a paid case study out there. She put up a website with 45 posts over last year that got 237,000 pins. And we don't know exactly how much traffic that drove to her site. It was a huge amount to be driven by AdSense is what her method of monetizing the website was. So, Social Media Examiner says that 1,200% higher average engagement than non-visuals on Facebook. And Facebook knows it too because there's hardly any text left in our feeds anymore, only as it surrounds a picture. Talked a little bit about in-house. In-house seems to be moving back to using agencies, and one of the biggest things they want to do in-house is go with social media. Why? Because SEO is risky, and it killed a lot of people, scared a lot of people. They ran away from it. Meanwhile, social, it's not technical, it's fairly stable. You can control the message, you can control the time you put out the message, where you put out the message, and almost who sees the message. We had a problem a couple weeks ago when it cropped up. It could have been very negative on social media. And when they went in, we bought some ads on Facebook, we targeted the people we needed to target, and suddenly the problem disappeared. It just disappeared. Why? Targeted. So. And word of mouth marketing, I'm a huge believer in word of mouth marketing. It's unbelievable brand building. Okay, so some of the trends we talked about, omnichannel marketing, I think the cornerstone of omnichannel marketing is situational awareness. Like I said, being there when the customer is ready to buy, being there when the user needs you. So you need to be everywhere, not just anywhere. You can't pick and choose. You want to be there where your user wants to find you. Another huge one down here at the bottom, audience segmentation. knowing where they are. That's why I love social. I love Facebook, being able to target people, using custom audiences, whether it's men 19 to 24, or whether it's women in this corner of the country, you can target like no other advertising agency around. Okay, search, we've been brought back in. As I said, they brought back in the agencies. A lot of it they brought back in-house. Over the years, the biggest thing is integration. One thing I never hear from people anymore is that they don't have to fight for budget on search anymore. They don't have to fight for buy-in from people like they used to. The biggest battle used to be is in-house people would have to fight wars. People just understand why you need search. Those wars aren't anymore. So, pure SEO is pure SEO anymore. Let's call it what it is, content marketing. When we talk about content marketing, I love this by convincing and convert. They talk about paid media, owned media, earned media, and the sweet spot being in the circle between all three. Whether that's, you know, how that looks. I don't know. I think every business is going to come up with something different where that intersection is between paid and earned and permission-based, whether that's a flyer, an email, a promo ad, or just a newsletter. All right, now I talked last year a great deal about Oculus and VR. Since then, they put out one new version of the Oculus developers package. We've had one mainstream VR platform in Gear VR from Samsung. Anybody can go buy it. If you have a Samsung Note 4, you can go buy it. I think it's available for the S6 as well. There's also the Sony Morpheus project. I actually had a chance to try Sony Morpheus. It's incredible. The biggest problem, I predicted a lot of things should happen by now. The biggest thing I didn't understand was that the tech was going to be a little bit more tricky than they thought. Getting the screens right, getting the optics right, getting the lenses right, it's taking them a great deal longer than I thought it ever would. I thought they had it nailed, but the first version of the Oculus is supposed to be out in January. That's what they've confirmed. And I think our world changed in January. The big winner is going to be, I think, Facebook, because they've already had this year to play with it, and they've had this year to develop stuff. And Oculus has this huge following of gamers developing for the platform, so that's bringing people in that understand the platform to develop under these new formats. I was just at a conference 2 months ago out in San Jose at the Convention Center about Silicon Valley VR conference, and there were 100 booths there. And of the 100 booths, I read constantly. I knew 2 companies there outside of the obvious Oculus and Sony. All these companies were brand new. VCs were throwing money at this like I had not seen in a long time, not since the early days of Comdex, the late 90s. Again, the winner's going to be Facebook. I really believe it. So I think stay tuned. I still think all my predictions from last year still reign supreme, but it's just going to take a little bit longer to get to this stuff. That's all I kind of got. As I talked about, our next conference is in October 5th through the 8th at the Convention Center in Vegas. You recognize most of the names. Guy Kawasaki, obviously Guy Kawasaki, you could read the phone book and 1,000 people would show up. Big one we just added was the AdSense team. First time I know of that AdSense, Google AdSense has been out for a conference in this kind of course. So they're going to come out, they're going to have a full keynote, and afterwards they promised they were going to sit around and talk. Gary, how do you pronounce it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I get that. Gary's going to be there all 3 days, and he's hosting a bunch of sessions. So come on out if you want to talk to him personally. And we just also signed Joe the Mike. Joe the Mike is customer experience and user design. This is the first time a UX guy has been out to a search conference or to it, so we're really excited about those folks. So thank you very much. I'm going to turn it over to Joe now.
We'll tweet it.
All right, thank you. I have a question for you as well. You
talked about the Iron Man 3 website being
Yes.
all pictures, and then you talk about being this content marketing specialist. So how do you kind of use all pictures and inject this content?
That is a bridge we're going to have to cross. One thing we do know, though, is that computers can read text. We can pull it right out. You know, Facebook does it without having a person look at your ad. They know immediately how much text is in your ad. So clearly they can read the text if that is an issue for the search engines. It's still there. It's still content. It's going to be. But it will be a bridge we will have to deal with. So, but I think as we go forward, less and less of our content is going to be targeted at Google. Is going to be targeted in such a way that they need to see the text, that it can still be in a graphical